there, BookTube. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to A Closer Book. This is the series where I talk about 3 of my recent reads. I started this series in 2017 and hey, it's 2018 and we're still reviewing books 3 at a time. While my reading taste is pretty eclectic and I will read almost anything or at least give it a chance, I'm pretty intentional about how I choose the first book that I read for the year. I almost don't want it to be a nonfiction because my favorite thing to read is the made-up story. I love a fiction even though I spend a lot of time reading nonfiction. And I want it to be a book that is intellectually challenging and interesting and will represent me in some way. And so I looked for a book that had been recommended by someone that I trust, and I picked up Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. I got this book as a gift in December, and when it was first offered to me, I was trying to choose between this and another option, and I went to Ink and Paper blog, Russell's YouTube channel, to hear him talk about this book to decide whether or not it was something I wanted to read, and he raved about it. And so I said, yeah, I think I'm gonna try it. That was December, and so when it came to January 1st and I wanted to start my reading year, I decided I was gonna go with this book, and it did not disappoint. Despite the title of this one, Eleanor Oliphant is not completely fine. She is a recluse, and because of her social ineptitude and her naivety in certain situations at her job and in her what passes for a social life, her comments and her thought process are pretty interesting and funny to read. She endured some kind of a tragedy when she was a child, and so she bears physical but also a lot of emotional and mental scars. And so she's been keeping herself away from any kind of social interaction. She has a job that she probably couldn't explain to you, and you probably wouldn't care if she told you, but the people at her job make fun of her openly, and she kind of joins into them making gags at her because she doesn't realize that they're talking about her. Either she doesn't realize or she doesn't care. And finally she develops what starts as a relationship with one of her co-workers, a new guy who's working in IT named Raymond, and they meet. And somehow they end up on the street together, and they have to help this man who has had some kind of an accident. From Eleanor and Raymond joining forces to help this older man, they develop a friendship, but they also become friendly with the man's family. And so Eleanor's social life just takes off. Also, and this is where it gets pretty interesting, her mother tells her that it's time for her to start dating. She needs to find a husband or a man in her life. And so Eleanor decides that it is time to begin that project, and the book is about her navigating through these different experiences as she's developing this friendship with Raymond and looking for this relationship that is going to change her life. It is a fascinating, beautiful read about a woman who is robotic and almost like a cyborg, and seeing the world through this woman's eyes. It's a funny but also heartwarming book. At 320 pages, it is the kind of story that you get immersed into, and even though it starts to go on and on, you don't mind. You just want to keep watching. You're rooting for Eleanor's life to change from where only she thinks that she's fine to where you think that she's fine. And I recommend this book highly. I gave it, I think, 4 stars. And it was a beautiful way to start off my reading year. Next, I read Hunger by Roxane Gay. Roxane Gay is a professional woman. She's in her mid-40s. She comes from a really good family. Her parents are both professionals. 2 parents, African-American parents, who are still married to each other, living together, providing that good support system. She has siblings. She's Ivy League educated. She has a good job. So what makes Roxane Gay hungry? As a child, she was sexually assaulted, and that experience has impacted almost every area of her life. She dealt with that trauma by trying to hide the experience inside of her. So first, she didn't tell anyone what happened, but then she wanted to kind of insulate herself from the world. And eating and overeating was how she dealt with that, creating a kind of shell, a kind of prison around her where she could use her body as this wall, as this cloister between her and the rest of the world. Make herself so big that people would ignore her, that people would see her but not notice her, people would see her but not want to talk to her, would not want to interact with her, because that's what she wanted to do as she dealt with the world that had failed her by allowing her as a child to be sexually assaulted. This book is about the assault. It's about her experience being sexually violated as a child, but it's also about much more. So in this book, she talks about the hunger that a lot of us carry within us, the hunger that we create by starving ourselves of social interaction and relationships, and how sometimes we're hungry for things that we want and can't identify how we can get them, but we've become so used to being hungry that we can't allow ourselves to feast even though the buffet table is open. This is a really impactful book to read. I'm very happy that I chose this as my first nonfiction, my first memoir to read for the year. Roxane Gay gives so much detail about her life, about some of the things that she endured, but also some of the things that she put herself in as she tried to escape feeling, as she tried to escape some of the relationships that made her feel good when she really just wanted to feel bad. So in here, there's a lot of detail about her life. So much detail that there are times when it feels a little voyeuristic to read so much about a person's life and thoughts. But she's the one sharing them. It's not like someone's writing them about her. But it's really not just about her. Her story, she shares it because she wants other people to see that sometimes, you could look at a person who seems to be so accomplished, seems to have everything going on, seems to have come from this really good background and shouldn't want for anything, shouldn't need anything, but they're still just hungry. I think what she wanted to do with this book is to just let other people know that if you have this craving inside of you, if you have this hole inside of your heart and soul that refuses to be filled, there is hope. She has learned how to deal with some of that hunger. She's learned how to deal with some of the yearnings and the cravings that she's had, and that if she can do it, so can you. I know I didn't talk too much about the structure of this book, except to say that it is a memoir. It's a beautifully written memoir about a very horrific experience that happened to a young girl, and about the life and the decades that she has spent escaping from that in the only way that she knew how, and about how she felt like she was a disappointment to her parents and the people who supported her by some of the choices that she made, but how she eventually found her way back. And so the words, the sentence structure, some of that really doesn't mean anything. It is a beautifully written book, but it's about so much more. So it feels a little wrong to analyze the writing of this book, even though it's beautiful, because I want to focus on the message instead. So I enjoyed this book and I recommend it highly to you as well. And my third book of the year is a memoir that I received from the publisher in order to do a review, and this is You Don't Look Adopted by Heffron. Heffron was given up for adoption when she was very young. And even though she was adopted by a good family, she had a good mother, a good father, and she lucked out because she even looks like her adopted parents, so people don't immediately think that she has been adopted, that she doesn't know her birth family. Even though she's had what people would consider to be a stroke of good luck, she's grown up feeling the loss of the connection to her birth mother. If you weren't adopted, or if you don't know someone who's gone through this struggle, then you might not understand the far reaches that adoption really has on the psyche and the experiences of a person who's gone through this. Heffron talks very strikingly about some of the issues that she's faced and the criticisms that she has had to endure, but also this hunger that she's been carrying around her whole life, looking for a connection with her biological mother. And eventually, as an adult, when she was able to connect with her biological mother and then being rejected by her, that just made everything pretty much spiral out of control. So she speaks very candidly about her failure at romantic relationships, and even her looking at her relationship with her own daughter and feeling incapable of giving something that she's never experienced but has spent her whole life wanting. This is a very moving book about a very sensitive issue. In the book, she seems to indulge in a little bit of self-flagellation. She seems to be a pretty accomplished person professionally, but she spends so much time bashing herself for the things that she hasn't been able to do. It becomes understandable when she explains the complex relationship that she had with her adopted mother, where it seems like she sabotages the relationship that she could have with her adopted mother because she doesn't want to be disloyal to her birth mother. It is a complicated but fascinating read about a very topical and moving and sensitive issue, and I recommend it not just for people who've been adopted, but if you know someone who has gone through the struggle, maybe a person who maybe wasn't adopted, but maybe didn't know their biological father because their mother didn't tell them their father's identity or something like that. This is a book I think that would give clarity and bridge a gap for someone who has experienced some of those things. The book is self-published, and there are several mistakes, grammatical and editing errors, but you can overlook this and still really enjoy this story. So I gave this between a 3 and 4 star rating. So that's it. That's a closer look at these 3 recent reads. Leave me a comment down below if you've read any of these or if you want to read them, and let's chat down there. And please subscribe if you haven't already. We're still in the push trying to get 1,000 subscribers before the deadline that YouTube has levied on us for February 20th. If we don't have 1,000 subscribers or 4,000 views in the past year, where we'll lose some of the features that we've been able to use for our YouTube videos. So please, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and go watch another video. I have lots of these book reviews elsewhere on my site. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk later. Bye.